Hi, my name is Doug, and my pronouns are he, him. And as far as how I label myself currently, I'd say I label myself as a gay man, a gay elder man. Pretty good, really. We've stayed fairly isolated. I'm partnered with a man named Ken. We're both currently not working, probably won't be doing anything on a 9 to 5 basis ever again, so that's nice. We have stayed fairly sheltered in the North Idaho wilderness, I'd say. Um, and it's worked out pretty well. I grew up in the East Coast, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, small town and suburbia in the 50s and 60s, and had a fairly idyllic upbringing. I think in lots of ways we were kind of lower middle class socioeconomically, I guess. Our families, or my family, always had enough to eat and dress and take modest vacations and all that. My world was pretty insular. Never really traveled further than Ohio to the west, New Jersey to the east, New York to the north, and Washington, D.C. to the south. So I didn't really have much of a sense of the extended world. And I certainly didn't have much of an exposure to any kind of diversity, be it different nationalities, different races, LGBT, very little of any of that. So going off to college in 1967 was the beginning of a pretty big wake-up call. I would say when I went to England finally in the late 60s, that was a huge step. Being around different cultures, different people, movements, anti-war sentiment was getting strong at that point. And so was this consciousness about LGBT. It's really hard to sort of pinpoint a time, a specific time, but sort of inklings coming in, I'd say junior high, high school. People would make a lot of queer jokes, use that word, or faggot. And I had experienced interest in guys, but very little acting on it. But terrified that I would be included in that group of people without anyone saying so specifically. I knew that was just a bad thing to have, to be labeled as. Actually, pretty much all the words are okay with me. It's just who's using them and how they're being used. When someone is hurling queer at you as an epithet, it tends to make you somewhat reactive. But I have no problem referring to myself as queer or joking around with it with other queer men and women or people who identify as other than that. There have been major strides in inclusivity for the LGBT community, and I think it has a long, long way to go. Um, I think that the media is so self-feeding in many ways and kind of insular. It kind of creates its own little loop, goes round, round, round. Not sure where it all heads, but there's still an enormous amount of work to be done. Absolutely not. It's under threat in so many places. There is just an enormous amount of advocacy work to be done. Much of that can be done simply by sharing with people and having sort of a casualness about educating people and displaying to sort of heteronormative groups, we're just people and we share all the same ups and downs that they do as well. A lot of that's internal work. I know for myself, having recently been to a reunion from college years, I was asked to publish a bio. In that bio, I put out I'm living with a man as a partner and divorced from my now ex-wife. And I had no qualms at all about doing that. I think 10 years ago, that would have been a struggle. So that's my own evolution, my own coming out process. I think that's so important to well, for all of us, as best we can, to normalize our own situation, both internally to ourselves and to the world around us. I like the fact that it's language as us. There is an us, and that we simply want to be ourselves. We're not a threat to your society and values and so forth. Um, we have all the same desires, all the same needs. We just apply them boys to boys, girls to girls, and some of us intersex, some of us asex. We're just people. Well, I'd say it's a little dicey. Um, Again, goes back to being comfortable for myself. We live in a very conservative community, and I think that at least there are now people who are, I would call straight allies, that can do some advocacy work. They can say, wait a minute, they're okay, accept them. Um, and that's really the challenge, just being out and about. That would be a key phrase, I guess, just be out and about. And as elders, I would speak specifically to LGBTQ plus elders' needs, and that is there's a lot of concern for people as they age. Do they have to go back into the closet if they're going into assisted living? That's a very real concern. How do you reach out for needs? How do you socialize? And part of that's just being elder. But I think that for queer elders, it's there are different challenges. How do you find each other? How do you, in a rural area, how do you navigate distances when you have limited driving abilities? Um, so I'm kind of fumbling around with that, but I would say that the elder LGBT needs are becoming more and more apparent as we develop a sense of community with other elders in this area. It's a position of privilege. We have a lot of history, either indirectly. I would say I was pretty hidden for a long time, but I witnessed all those things that happen in gaining traction for gay rights, LGBT rights, and then being out again. I think we have a lot to offer each other in terms of support, but also support to younger generations and a kind of knowledge base to pass on. Many people take gay marriage as just a given, and it is not a given. There are people who seriously want to take that down right now. And it was a hell of a struggle to get where we are at this point. It's important that people know that. I think it's also important to know that there was such a need for hiding in early years. There was a terror of being ostracized from your family, from your friends. And I know a lot of that still exists today. It's very important to be active. It's very important to continue the dialogue, continue to stand up for our rights to be included like anybody else. This fight is far, far from over. And there's a level of reactivity going on globally right now, but also very specifically in the state we live in and in the country we live in, to deny access to us as a people. The most hope is being around young people and being around elders as they develop community, those two things. So youth, because that exuberance and that energy and that we'll just take it on. Um, I love connecting at that level. And then with the older people, just the beauty of seeing people who have lived so much of their lives and are really trying successfully to bond and to achieve dignity in our later years. Those are both very empowering communities to tap into. I don't know. I just keep going, put one foot in front of the other, and I seem to really get through all kinds of disasters and come out the other end, and I can still smile and laugh about it. So I guess that would probably be what I like. I'm so pleased to have come across Jordan and Video Out. I think that the wider our stories can reach, the better off we all are. I'm Doug. This is my Video Out.